Good day everyone, my name is Chakros Dasal, and in this video I will report on the next or the fourth phase in the Systems Development Lifecycle or SDLC, which is the procedure for selecting the one system from the set of an alternative conceptual designs that will go to the detailed design phase, also known as system evaluation and selection. To recap, System Development Lifecycle or SDLC is widely used in organization to develop or modify application systems. Establishing an appropriate SDLC and assigning responsibility for each phase of the cycle is critical for smooth and accurate system design, development, and maintenance. Following each phase of this cycle ensures that the new or revised application system meets the needs of the organization, that adequate internal controls are in line with the management's objectives, and that the application is properly implemented. The system evaluation and selection phase. This phase is an optimization process that seeks to identify the best system. This decision represents a critical juncture in the SDLC. At this point, there is a great deal of uncertainty about the system, and a poor decision here can be disastrous. So the purpose of a formal evaluation and selection procedure is to structure this decision-making process to reduce both uncertainty and the risk of making a poor decision. The evaluation and selection process involves two steps. Step 1 is to perform a detailed feasibility study, and step 2 is to perform a cost-benefit analysis. Before I explain to you how to conduct or perform a detailed feasibility study, let me first define what a feasibility study is. What is a feasibility study? When a project is proposed, an important first step toward making it a reality is to evaluate its value, plausibility, and potential. A feasibility study is an in-depth examination of every aspect of the project, with the goal of generating an objective picture of the costs, benefits, and risk before proceeding. In other words, a feasibility study contains a detailed analysis of what's needed to complete the proposed project. In other definition, according to CFI Team 2022, a feasibility study, as the name suggests, is designed to reveal whether a project or plan is feasible. It is an assessment of the practicality of a project or plan. A feasibility study is part of the initial design stage of any project or plan. It is conducted in order to objectively discover the strengths and weaknesses of a proposed project or an existing business. It is said to aid in identifying and assessing the opportunities and threats present in the natural environment, as well as the resources needed for the project and the prospects for success. The report will also include financial projections, the likelihood of success, and ultimately a go or no-go decision. The project feasibility has 5 aspects that need to be considered. Each competing project will be assessed in the same manner by assessing the major constraints on the proposed system. Management can evaluate the project's likelihood for success before committing large amounts of financial and human resources. The acronym TELOS provides guidance for assessing project feasibility. The term stands for technical, economic, legal, operational, and schedule feasibility. Before I and the next reporter explain the 5 aspects of project feasibility, let me show you a video that shows how to conduct a feasibility study and explains the overview of the 5 aspects by Project Cubicle.
What is a feasibility study? Feasibility study is an assessment of the practicality of a proposed plan or project. Before to start a project, want to know if it is feasible. For example, a company may conduct feasibility study to understand if a project is operationally and technically feasible as well as economically applicable. The result of this study summarizes the advantages and disadvantages to support decision-making and demonstrate if the project is doable or not. When do we conduct feasibility study? It is done during a project life cycle or after the business case. How to conduct a feasibility study? There are 7 steps to be followed. 1. Conduct a preliminary analysis. Describe the project ideas, outline the market conditions, and determine the obstacles. 2. Create a projected income statement. Estimate what the income of the project would be and what investment is required to provide the estimated income. 3. Conduct a market research. Make a proper projection of the incomes. 4. Plan business organization and operations. Determine the technical abilities of the organization and the costs of operations. 5. Create an opening day balance sheet. Demonstrate your company's overall capital structure on the first day. 6. Review and analyze. Compare the charts and information that are included in the previous steps to each other and make sure everything is consistent. 7. Make go, no-go decision. Depending on the information provided in the previous steps, make a decision about whether the option is feasible or not. 5 types of feasibility study. 1. Legal feasibility. Perform to understand if the proposed plan conforms the legal and ethical requirements. 2. Economic feasibility study. Involves a cost-benefits analysis to identify how well, or how poorly, a project will be concluded. 3. Technical feasibility. The process of validating the technical resources and capabilities to convert the ideas into working systems. 4. Operational feasibility. Perform to understand whether a proposed system solves the problems. 5. Scheduling feasibility. Measures of how reasonable the project duration is.
At this point, I am experiencing technical problem, so I will simply voice over the video. You just watched the video about how to conduct a feasibility study. Now, I'll go over the 5 aspects in greater detail, and the first is the technical feasibility. Technical feasibility is concerned with whether the system can be developed under existing technology or if new technology is needed. The object of technical feasibility is to assess the technical soundness of the project. This means technical feasibility or analysis is carried out to ascertain whether the project is technically sound and viable one. This is considered essential for the long-term success of the project. As a general proposition, the technology in the marketplace is far ahead of most firms' ability to apply it. Therefore, from an availability viewpoint, technical feasibility is not usually an issue. For most firms, the real issue is their desire and ability to apply available technology. Given that technology is the physical basis for most of the system's design features, this aspect bears heavily on the overall feasibility of the competing system. The scope of technical feasibility. Technical feasibility includes the study of, first, the material inputs and utilities. This refers to the availability of facilities, services, and other resources required for a project. Second, manufacturing process or technology. This refers to the manner in which a company's inputs are transformed into its outputs. These are tools, devices, and knowledge that help in the transformation. Third, plant capacity. Plant capacity is also called as production capacity, which refers to the volume or number of units that can be manufactured at a given period. Fourth, plant location refers to a fairly broad area where the enterprise is to be established, like city, industrial zone, or coastal area. Last, fifth, selection of site. The terms location and site are different. Location refers to a fairly broad area, while site refers to a specific piece of land where the project would be set up. The next four aspects will be discussed by the next reporter.
The second aspect of project feasibility is economic feasibility. Economic feasibility pertains to the availability of funds to complete the project. At this point, we are concerned with management's financial commitment to this project in view of other competing capital projects under consideration. The level of available economic support directly impacts the operational nature and scope of the proposed system. In project management, there are several techniques for financial feasibility assessment like cost-benefit analysis and break-even analysis, but the two basic approaches are bottom-up and top-down. Bottom-up approach. We break down a large of amount work or tasks into small, measurable pieces, then estimate every piece in dollar value, and add the estimates together. We accumulate cost estimates from the people responsible for various tasks in our project. These people are supposed to be experts in what they do. Top-down approach. We talk to senior management and business analysts about their expectations and the range of project expenses and conduct a business analysis to come up with an estimate that can cover feasible outcomes of the project.
So we'll go into them in a bit more detail. So firstly is economic feasibility. Essentially with any project, you're going to be given a budget. Okay, this budget might be you've been given $30,000 and you've got to spend it to improve our network in some way, in the way we do our day-to-day tasks. This actual area of feasibility overlaps with all the other areas as well, because each one of them has financial costs. So if you need to purchase new hardware and software, that relates to technical feasibility as well. If staff need to be trained, that relates to organizational feasibility in order to make sure they use the new system. And then finally, if timelines run over the deadlines, then it's going to cost money, okay, because you've gone beyond your scheduled time. People need to be paid for their work. So that's going to impact on economic feasibility as well. So you've got to really take into account how much money you have and how it will be allocated.
The third aspect of project feasibility is legal feasibility. Legal feasibility identifies any conflicts between the conceptual system and the company's ability to discharge its responsibilities. A legal feasibility study determines whether the proposed project complies with the legal and contractual requirements or not. For example, your e-commerce portal collects user-sensitive and personal data, name, email, IP address, credit card details, and you need to make sure that your data collection policy does not conflict with the requirements of the law. Another example is employee monitoring. When you want to adapt a system for monitoring employees' computers and their activity on the web, You should advise your employees of the fact and have all employees sign an acknowledgement. This kind of project is legally feasible when there is no question about whether your employees have any expectation of privacy on their office desktops and laptops. The fourth aspect of project feasibility is operational feasibility. Operational feasibility shows the degree of compatibility between the firm's existing procedures and personal skills and the operational requirements of the new system. Implementing the new system may require adopting new procedures and retraining operations personnel. Analyzing operational feasibility is to gain an understanding of whether the proposed project will solve the business problem or not. The operational feasibility study explores how the project will fit into the current day-to-day operations of the performing organization. Besides, operational feasibility helps the project manager or the relevant department with the performing organization to find out whether the current work practices and procedures support the project development process and how changes in the project can affect the organization and its day-to-day operation.
Next, we have operational feasibility, where we're looking at the participants and can they handle the new system. We need to understand how well trained in IT are our participants. Can they do the tasks that the new systems require? If not, are they able to be trained by someone? Do we bring in a third party to train them, or do we get our staff trained by maybe one staff member first and then they train the rest of the staff? Okay, sometimes as well we need to factor in, do we need training materials? Do we need an operational manual that each staff member gets so they understand how to use the new system? Or will there be presentation media that will be shown in training in order to prepare staff for the new system? These are all factors we need to understand if we're going to be sure staff will be qualified to use this new system. Okay, and once again, it can relate to more money being spent. Different things have different costs.
The fifth aspect of project feasibility is schedule feasibility. Schedule feasibility relates to the firm's ability to implement the project within an acceptable time. This feasibility factor impacts both the scope of the project and whether it will be developed in-house or purchased from a software vendor. If the project, as conceptually envisioned, cannot be produced internally by the target date, then its design, its acquisition method, or the target date must be changed. A schedule feasibility template usually explores the duration of the project and answers the question whether the project is too long to be complete before it is successful. Project schedule feasibility estimates how much time the team will need to deliver the project and whether all potential deadlines and time frames can be met, as well as whether following these schedules will be sufficient for dealing with the needs of the organization. Also, it is important to determine whether the schedules are mandatory or desirable. For example, in your IT project, you schedule a preferable deadline for delivering a properly functioning software system. You understand that this deadline can be unmet because the project team needs more time to test the functionality and develop an error-free version. A missed deadline is bad, but inadequate functionality is worse.
Finally is our schedule feasibility, and we're specifically looking at how much time do we have. Okay, the old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day, so things are going to take time for the implementation of this new system. Okay, but is there a realistic timeline? If we budgeted for 3 months and then things take 4 months to make, well, then we've got a month extra of payment we need to pay for certain groups that have either been training, staff that have been out of work, and it really blows the budget and how much we've got. So we've got to keep a strict schedule, which may be done in conjunction with a Gantt chart in order to make sure that our actual project will be on track and it's realistic.
Five types of feasibility study. 1. Legal feasibility. Performed to understand if the proposed plan conforms the legal and ethical requirements. 2. Economic feasibility study. Involves a cost-benefits analysis to identify how well, or how poorly, a project will be concluded. 3. Technical feasibility. The process of validating the technical resources and capabilities to convert the ideas into working systems. 4. Operational feasibility. Performed to understand whether a proposed system solves the problems. 5. Scheduling feasibility. Measures of how reasonable the project duration is.
Hello true friends, on today's video you will get to know what is meant by cost-benefit analysis. So let's get to it. Whenever you're about to make a decision and you start weighting your choices against each other, and you start weighting the cost against the benefits, or the returns that you'd get from such a decision, that's what we call cost-benefit analysis, or CBA. We use cost-benefit analysis every day actually. You've just used it now. Think about it. You saw my video online and you thought to yourself for a second, is it really worth watching it or not? Is learning more about cost-benefit analysis worth the 3-minute video? In this case, the cost was your time, which is 3 minutes to be spent watching it, and the benefit, or the return, was learning something new about the cost-benefit analysis. And evidently, since you are watching it now, your answer was yes, which means that you found that the benefit does outweigh the cost. Same goes for the business. When making any decisions, they go through the cost-benefit analysis to see if it's really worth making it or not. The cost can be money, time, or effort, and maybe even risk, a perceived risk. On the other hand, the benefit can be any good returns for the business. It might be more profits, or less costs at least. In this video, we've covered the idea of cost-benefit analysis, and if you've got any inquiries or questions, please leave me a comment and I'll be more than glad to answer them all for you. I will see you all in my next video, my true friends. Thanks for watching.
I am Champagne A. Antea. Let's talk all about the cost-benefit analysis. Cost-benefit analysis helps management determine whether and by how much the benefits received from a proposed system will outweigh its cost. It is the process of analyzing if something is worth its cost. Cost is not only money, but can be time, effort, energy, and others. A cost-benefit analysis is done to determine how well or how poorly a planned action will turn out. A cost-benefit analysis is the process of comparing the projected or estimated costs and benefits or opportunities associated with a project decision to determine whether it makes sense from a business perspective. Generally speaking, Cost-benefit analysis involves tallying up all costs of a project or decision and subtracting that amount from the total projected benefits of the project or decision. This technique is frequently used for estimating the expected financial value of business investment. However, in this case, the investment is an information system and the costs and benefits are more difficult to identify and quantify than those of traditional capital projects. Although imperfect for this setting, cost-benefit analysis is employed because of its simplicity and the absence of a clearly better alternative. In spite of its limitations, cost-benefit analysis combined with feasibility factors is a useful tool for comparing competing systems designs. Cost-benefit analysis serves two purposes. First, to verify that an investment or a project benefits are than its cost. Second, to select an investment or a project by comparing the benefits over cost. Before building a new plant or taking a new project, prudent managers conduct a cost-benefit analysis to evaluate all the potential cost and revenue that a company might generate from the project. The outcome of the analysis will determine whether the project is financially feasible or the company should pursue another project. For example of cost-benefit analysis, as the production manager, Daniel is proposing the purchase of 1 million stamping machine to increase output. Before he can present the proposal to the vice president, he needs some facts to support his suggestion. So he decides to run the numbers and do the cost-benefit analysis. He itemizes the benefits with the new machine. He can produce 100 more units per hour. The 3 workers currently doing that stamping by hand can be replaced. The units will be higher quality because they will be more uniform. He is convinced this outweighs the cost. There is a cost to purchase the machine and it will consume some electricity. Any other cost would be insignificant. He calculates the selling price of the 100 additional units per hour multiplied by the number of the production hours per month. Add to the 2% for the units that aren't rejected because of the quality of the machine output. He also adds the monthly salaries of the 3 workers. That is a pretty good total benefit. Then, he calculates the monthly cost of the machine by dividing the purchase price by 12 months per year and divides by the 10 years the machine should last. The manufacturer's specs tell him what the power consumption of the machine is, and he can get power cost numbers from accounting, so you figure the cost of electricity to run the machine and add the purchase cost to get a total cost figure. He subtracts his total cost figure from his total benefit value, and his analysis shows a healthy profit. To perform cost-benefit analysis, we need to follow 3 steps. First, identify cost. Second, identify benefits. And lastly, compare cost and benefit. Identify cost. One method of identifying cost is to divide them into two categories: one-time cost and recurring cost. One-time costs include the initial investment to develop and implement the system. Recurring costs include operating and maintenance costs that recur over the life of the system. Costs recovered by a service activity may include only those costs which are directly related and allocable to the activity, allowable under applicable regulations, and reasonable in relation to the service performed. These costs must be expenditures of the Service Activity Fund, except for the equipment and subsidies as explained below. Note that costs must be segregated by individual service provided and cannot be aggregated. One-time costs include the following: hardware acquisition, site preparation, software acquisition, system design, programming and testing, data conversion from old system to new system, and personnel training. Recurring costs include the following: hardware maintenance, software maintenance contracts, insurance, supplies, personnel.
In the application of cost-benefit analysis, we should know how to identify cost. And in identifying costs, we must use the method of dividing them into categories: the one-time cost and the recurring cost. In this part, one-time cost will be tackled and the other category will be discussed in the succeeding video. One-time cost. One-time costs include the initial investment to develop and implement the system. One-time cost means first-year cost, which includes the cost of supply, design, installation, integration, testing, training, and implementation of hardware, software, and any other required component of the proposed solution. Table 5.1 in Chapter 5, Information Technology Auditing, 3rd edition by James A. Hall, shows a breakdown of typical one-time costs and recurring costs. One-time cost includes hardware acquisition, site preparation, software acquisition, system design, programming and testing, data conversion, and training. The first one-time cost is the hardware acquisition. This cost includes the cost of mainframe, mini-computers, microcomputers, and peripheral equipment such as tape drives and desk packs. These cost figures can be obtained from the vendor. Next is the site preparation. This cost involves such frequently overlooked costs such as building modifications like adding air conditioning or making structural changes. Equipment installation, which may include the use of heavy equipment, and also the freight charges. Estimates of this cost can be obtained from the vendor and the subcontractors who do the installation. The third one is the software acquisition. These costs apply to all software purchased for the proposed system, including operating system software if not bundled with the hardware, network control software, and commercial applications such as accounting packages. Estimates of this cost can be obtained from the vendors. Next is the systems design. These costs are those incurred by systems professionals performing the planning, analysis, and design functions. Technically, such costs incurred up to this point are sunk and irrelevant to the decision. The analyst should estimate only the cost needed to complete the detailed design. The fifth cost under one-time cost category is the programming and testing.
Programming costs are based on estimates of the personnel hours required to write new programs and modify existing programs for the proposed system. System testing costs involve bringing together all the individual program modules for testing as an entire system. This must be a rigorous exercise if it is to be meaningful. The planning, testing, and analysis of the results may demand many days of involvement from systems professionals, users, and other stakeholders of the system. The experience of the firm in the past is the best basis for estimating this cost. The next one-time cost is the data conversion. These costs arise in the transfer of data from one storage medium to another. For example, the accounting records of a manual system must be converted to a magnetic form when the system becomes computer-based. This can represent a significant task. The basis for estimating conversion costs is the number and size of the files to be converted. The last cost is training. These costs involve educating users to operate the new system. In-house personnel could do this in an extensive training program provided by an outside organization at a remote site or through on-the-job training. The cost of formal training can be easily obtained. The cost of an in-house training program includes instruction time, classroom facilities, and lost productivity. This cost is often the first one cut to meet budgets, and such an action can be fatal to systems development. Example: Hirsch's ERP implementation disaster was blamed in part on the drastic reduction in employee training before going live. So, accountants and auditors should be aware of the danger of cutting this important part of systems development. Going on, one-time costs, otherwise known as the non-recurring costs, are the costs that occur on a one-time basis and are unlikely to occur again in the normal course of business. In simple terms, these are the costs that the company incurs irregularly. Unlike the recurring costs which business incurs during its daily operations. Expenses can be non-recurring or recurring, and each has its own effect on the company's overall financial health and how it measures its profits and expenses for financial statements. Understanding the difference between non-recurring and recurring expenses can help with financial planning and might help reduce the company's overall cost. And furthermore, it will also help in easily categorizing or identifying the incurred cost. The next short clip video downloaded from YouTube will explain further about one-time or the non-recurring costs.
But the non-recurring cost is the fixed cost you have to pay at once. The cost which incurred at once is called a non-recurring cost. The non-recurring cost could be of the purchase of land required for some project or the organization operations. So that is usually done at only single time, and the other cost could be of the construction of a building or offices. That is also a one-time cost. You have to pay no more cost after regular interval, but when the building is complete, the cost is over, the project is over, and no more cost is due for after regular interval. The other cost could be of the equipment required for organizational work, the medical equipment, the infrastructure equipment, the technology, the operators, and the other line of business equipment you purchased from the other vendors. That is also one time activity. You do not purchase equipment routinely or after monthly or biannually or quarterly. So this is also the one time cost, which is non-recurring cost. The next cost is the material cost, the raw material you have required for your organizational operations. So the material cost is also the one time cost you have purchased at once, and after the consume you have to pay, you have to purchase it on the second time. So this is not the routine cost, this is depend upon the organizational operations, the design and development of the organizational infrastructure, organizational buildings, organizational line of business. So this is the also the one time cost you have to pay for it. This is not the routine cost you have to pay after the every month, after quarterly or yearly. So this is the non-recurring cost, the design and development cost. The other non-recurring cost is the investment cost. You have to you have some investment in some projects or the organizations, either in some organization. The investment cost is the one time cost you have to pay at once, and later on you gain benefits or profits from that organizations. So this is not the recurring cost which you have to pay after each and every month, or weekly or quarterly or biannually, depending upon the operations of the organization. The infrastructure development, the computer system purchased for organizations operations, the security systems purchased for the organization operations, the security networks, the local area networks, network LAN systems, the computer systems, the IT network, the other technical equipment and operators required for organization operations, which is the cost incurred over the infrastructure development is also the non-recurring cost, because this is the cost is also one time cost. No more this cost is no more recurring, because you have to purchase only once. The cost which incurred at once in an organizations or the projects, that cost is called non-recurring. So the basic difference between recurring and non-recurring cost is that the recurring cost is the cost incurred over a regular interval of time. The non-recurring cost is incurred at once in the over the life cycle of the project, over the entire life of the organization.
Now, we will be talking about recurring costs. We will know what is a recurring cost all about, as well as what is included in the recurring cost. What is a recurring cost? A recurring cost means a repetitive cost incurred by operating authority, including but not limited to personal time directly associated with database management, and personal time directly associated with addressing list of access lines, list of equipment, network access fees, communication equipment to receive and dispatch emergency calls, and applicable maintenance. Recurring expenses are the company's ongoing costs. These can include administrative costs, debts, and other long-term costs that help the business function. Businesses measure recurring expenses to understand the basic operating cost of the company, which is also an important consideration for investors. Investors might look at a company with low operating costs as an excellent investment opportunity. Now, how does recurring cost differ from non-recurring cost? Recurring costs are those expenses that are brought about as a component of ordinary daily practice and continuous business tasks. To guarantee proceeds with business activities, these costs are hence brought about oftentimes on a periodic premise, while non-recurring costs are those expenses that don't emerge out of scheduled everyday business activities, yet rather are owing to one-off or exceptional occasions. Non-recurring costs are consequently rare in nature and not expected to be repeated in nature. Non-repeating costs can be brought about because of a few reasons, which might include uncommon occasions, changes in bookkeeping principle, and closing down or starting up an office or a specific activity. Both recurring and non-recurring costs sway the capital as well as the benefit of a business substance. Since recurring costs sway benefit year on year, they should be investigated, observed, and control to guarantee that they are inside the planned sums. Now, what are included in a recurring cost? Recurring cost includes hardware maintenance, software maintenance, insurance, supplies, and personnel costs. Hardware maintenance involves taking care of the computer's physical components, such as its keyboard, hard drive, and internal CD or DVD drives, cleaning the computer, keeping its phone free from dust, and defragmenting its hard drives regularly are all parts of a computer hardware maintenance program. This cost involves the upgrading of the computer, increasing the memory, as well as preventive maintenance and repairs to the computer and peripheral equipment. To minimize and budget this cost, the organization may enter into a maintenance contract with the vendor. Also, estimates for this cost can be obtained from vendors and existing contracts. We must put in mind that maintaining hardware helps to extend the computer's lifespan. It also helps to prevent wear and tear and keeps the system function smoothly. Next is the software maintenance. Software maintenance is modifying a software product after delivery to correct all the faults and improve performance or other attributes. It is a part of a software development lifecycle. Software is a model of the real world, so when the real world changes, the software requires changes too wherever possible. Software maintenance includes optimization, deletion of discarded features, error correction, and enhancement of existing features. As these changes are essential, a mechanism must be created to estimate, control, and make modifications. Software maintenance must prepare an accurate plan during the development cycle because maintenance takes up about 40 to 80% of the project cost, closer to the higher pole. So, a focus on maintenance lowers your cost. These costs includes upgrading and debugging operating systems, purchase applications, and in-house developed applications. Maintenance contracts with software vendors can be used to specify this cost fairly and accurately. Estimates of in-house maintenance can also be derived from historical data. Software maintenance has three functionalities, which is to correct defects, adapting to software to meet the changing environment, and enhances functionality to meet the evolving needs of the customers. Software maintenance has also four types. These are the corrective maintenance, adaptive maintenance, perfective maintenance, and preventive maintenance. Corrective maintenance, most commonly referred to and known as bugs, it addresses errors and faults in your software that could affect various areas of your software, such as the designs, logic, or the code. Adaptive maintenance triggered by changes in the environment that your software lives in. It can be triggered by changes to the operating system, hardware, software dependencies, and even organizational business rule and policies. Next is the perfective maintenance. It refers to the evolution of the software requirements and features in your existing system. It also includes removing features from a system that are not effective and functional to the end goal of the system. And lastly, preventive maintenance refers to changes made to increase the understanding and maintainability of your software in the long run. It focuses on decreasing the deterioration of your software in the long run. Next, recurring costs include insurance. Insurance is a contract represented by a policy in which a policyholder receives financial protection or reimbursement against losses from an insurance company. It is used to hedge against the risk of financial losses, both big and small, that they may result from damages to the insured or the property or liability for damage or injury. These costs cover such hazards and disaster such as fire, hardware failure, vandalism, and destruction by disgruntled employees. Next recurring costs are the supplies, which refers to the cost of consumable used during a reporting period. It is defined as an academic term that refers to the quantity of a particular product or service that suppliers offer to consumers at a specified price and at a certain period. It represents the total amount of certain goods available. These costs or the supply costs are incurred through routine consumption of such items such as paper, magnetic discs, CDs, and general office supplies. The last cost included in the recurring cost are the personnel cost. Personnel cost means all compensation costs incurred by an employer in connection with the employment by such employer of applicable personnel, including all salary, cash bonuses, payroll taxes, and benefit, but excluding any shared-based compensation. These are the salaries of individuals who are part of the information system. Some employee costs are direct and easy identifiable, such as the salaries of operation personnel exclusively employed as part of the system under analysis. Some personal involvement, such as the database administrator and computer room personnel, is common in many systems. Such personnel costs must be allocated based on expected incremental involvement with the system.
Good day, everyone. I'm May Marjorie M. Hemantiza. My assigned topic is about identifying benefits. What is benefit? Benefits is an advantage or profit gain from something. Benefits identification is an initial activity that is common to both appraisal and benefits management. It seeks to identify and define potential benefits arising from addressing an identified problem, which in turn is preventing transport system and objectives and target from being achieved. There were two kinds of benefits: tangible benefits and intangible benefits. Tangible benefits are those that are quantifiable and measurable, and sometimes it is called a hard saving. They are improvement project benefits that have a specific dollar value, number of labor hours, or other specific metric that can be determined to have been achieved through the project. Tangible benefits is divided into two categories. First, those that increase a revenue. Examples: increase sales within existing markets and expansion into other markets. Second, those that reduce cost. Examples: operating cost reduction, reduce inventories, less expensive equipment, and reduce equipment maintenance. Revenue increasing benefit is the estimated increase in sales due to better customer service. When measuring cost saving, it is important to include only escapable costs in the analysis. escapable costs are directly related to the system, and these cease to exist when the system ceases to exist. Some costs that appear to be escapable to the users are not only escapable and, if included, can lead to a flawed analysis. For example, data processing centers often charge back their operating costs to their user constituency. Through cost allocations, the chargeback rate they use for this includes both fixed costs allocated to users and direct costs created by the activities of individual users. So figure 5.6 illustrates these techniques. So as you can see in figure 5.6 is the DP center cost chargeback to user areas. So assume that the management in user area B proposes to acquire a computer systems and perform its own data processing locally. One benefit of the proposal is the cost savings derived by escaping the chargeback from the current data processing center. Although the user may see this as a $400,000 annual charge, only the direct cost portion of $50,000 is escapable by the organization as a whole. Should the proposal be approved, the remaining $350,000 of the chargeback does not go away. The remaining users of the current system must now absorb this cost. Intangible benefits. So what is intangible benefits? So intangible benefits, it can improve customer satisfaction. It is also called soft benefits, which are the profits attributable to the improvement project that cannot be reported for formal accounting purposes. So the intangible benefits are not included in the financial calculations because they are not monetary or are difficult to quantify and calculate. So according to The Economist, more than 25% of the value of companies is now based on intangible assets, such as brand image and market shares. So some examples of intangible benefits are, first, increased customer satisfaction. So increased customer satisfaction. The projects in general aim to provide satisfaction to the final customer, whether this is external or internal to the organization. Otherwise, if the client is not satisfied with the result, the project could be considered successful. However, increased customer satisfaction is an intangible benefit since it is not possible to measure it objectively. Next example is improved employee satisfaction. More current information, improved decision making, faster response to competitor actions, more efficient operations, better internal and external communications, improved planning and operational flexibility, improved control environment. Please watch the video for additional information about identifying benefits.
Benefits are defined as the quantifiable and measurable improvement resulting from completion of deliverables that is perceived as positive by a stakeholder. It will normally have a tangible value, expressed in monetary terms that will justify the investment. Projects are undertaken to enable benefits to be realized by an organization. These benefits may be financial, such as generating increased revenue, or non-financial, such as reducing waiting list times in hospitals. The benefits explain the reason for undertaking the project. Most commonly, benefits will accrue for years after the end of the project. For example, an airline may have a project to commission a new type of aircraft. This will be in use carrying fare-paying customers for many years after the project has been completed and the aircraft delivered. Examples of benefits include reducing costs, such as by introducing new technology, better capability, such as enabling more flexibility as a result of enhanced staff capabilities, generate revenue, such as sales of new products, compliance with legislation to avoid penalties for non-compliance, and improved satisfaction to maintain our customer base. The benefits need to be measurable and will become an important component of the business case, enabling the sponsor to ensure the project is and remains viable.
Change is often difficult, unsettling, and sometimes even painful. As a result, we very rarely choose to undergo change unless we see clear benefits. And the same is true of organizations. In a project setting, benefits can take a number of different forms, from tangible things such as money saved or new jobs created, to more intangible things like improved public perception or greater customer satisfaction. And they're not always identifiable at the initiation phase of a project. Benefits may emerge along the course of the project. Whatever form they take, and whenever they emerge, benefits must be structured using a clear plan that will in turn provide a benefits focus for the project or program team. They must be revisited at various points throughout the project and used to inform the wider decision-making process. But simply identifying benefits isn't enough. They need to be actively managed for them to be effectively realised. This involves developing a measurement strategy for both the changes taking place and the benefits to be realised, and assigning clear accountability for both areas.
That's all, and I hope that you gain something on my report. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Compare costs and benefits. The last step in the cost-benefit analysis is to compare the costs and benefits identified in the first two steps. The two most common methods used for evaluating information systems are net present value and payback. Under the net present value method, the present value of the costs is deducted from the present value of the benefits over the life of the system. Projects with a positive net present value are economically feasible. When comparing competing projects, the optimal choice is the project with the greatest net present value. Table 5.4 illustrates the net present value method by comparing two competing designs. The example is based on the following data. If costs and tangible benefits alone were being considered, then design A would be selected over design B. However, the value of intangible benefits along with the design feasibility scores must also be factored into the final analysis. The payback method is a variation of break-even analysis. The break-even point is reached when total costs equal total benefits. Figure 5.7a and 5.7b illustrates this approach using the data from the previous example. The total cost curve consists of the one-time costs plus the present value of the recurring costs over the life of the project. The total benefits curve is the present value of the tangible benefits.
The intersection of these lines represents the number of years into the future when the project breaks even or pays for itself. The shaded area between the benefit curve and the total cost curve represents the present value of future profits earned by the system. In choosing an information system, payback speed is often a decisive factor. With brief product life cycles and rapid advances in technology, the effective lives of information systems tend to be short. Using this criterion, Design B, with a payback period of 4 years, would be selected over Design A, whose payback will take 4.5 years. The length of the payback period often takes precedence over other considerations represented by intangible benefits. Let's take another example of cost-benefit analysis, specifically comparing costs and benefits. Supposing you are looking at introducing some new software into your organization. Let's discuss the cost first, and we want to balance the costs with the benefits. The costs would be things like the actual price of the software, how much the cost of installation is, user training, and the charges and fees for annual maintenance. The benefits on the other side would be having more efficient business processes, more efficient staff, better customer information, and finally, better data management. Now, we calculate up all the costs and calculate up the benefits for each piece of software. In comparing each software, we'll use the simple ratio, which is the cost-benefit ratio. In cost-benefit ratio, we divide the benefits from the costs. That gives us the ratio that we'll use to compare the different softwares. These conclusions are only as good as the data they are based on. Cost-benefit analysis is carried out only using the financial costs and financial benefits. Now, let's assume we have 3 different softwares: Software A, Software B, and Software C. We can see that Software A has the lowest cost, which is 10,000 pesos, but Software C has the highest benefit, which is 23,000 pesos. However, when we compare the cost-benefit ratio, we can see that Software B offers the best with a ratio of 1.27. So, we will normally select the option which returns the highest cost-benefit ratio, that from a financial point of view, that is the option we would take. From this comparison, Software C is the one we should least take account of, and Software A is a bit behind. Therefore, Software B is our choice. To understand more about cost-benefit analysis, please watch this video.
In this video, I'll explain cost-benefit analysis. By the end of this video, you'll be able to explain how to conduct a cost-benefit analysis. You'll also learn how to analyze the limitations of a cost-benefit analysis. When considering whether or not to pursue a public investment project such as building a highway or installing a traffic light, a government would undertake a cost-benefit analysis to assess the value of the project and also see whether or not they should progress with it. The issue lies in determining the value of benefits and costs. How do we appraise the present value of some future benefits? While we can gather as much information as is available, accurately placing value on costs and benefits is quite a difficult process. I'll illustrate with an example. Imagine an intersection without stop signs or traffic lights. There's a significant amount of traffic that flows through the intersection on a daily basis, and from time to time there are accidents. The city is deciding whether or not to introduce traffic lights at the intersection. How would they value the benefits of putting up a traffic light? Well, while they're deciding whether or not to put up the traffic light, the following incident occurs. The drivers seen just before are continuing along their daily commute when one car breaks down in the intersection. For some reason, the van driver is playing on a mobile phone and doesn't look up in time to see the broken down car. There's a fatal car accident and neither driver survives. The question is, how do you place a monetary value on an individual's life or well-being? This is one of the many problems that governments face when pursuing such projects. It's somewhat easy to estimate the cost of the materials and services needed to put up the traffic light, but it's difficult to estimate the benefits accurately. Add to the problem that people don't pay to use the traffic light, and determining its value becomes much more difficult. Let's look at a sample analysis the government may conduct. This table considers 4 options and their associated benefits and costs. There are external benefits and costs for each option. We add together the private and external benefits and compare them to the private and external costs. We use this information to derive our net benefit or net cost. Using this information, we select the project with the highest net benefit to pursue. Let's consider option 1. The sum of the benefits is $120,000 and the value of the cost is $180,000. Since our costs are greater than our benefits, we run a net loss of $60,000. Let's use the same approach to solve for the rest of the options and see if we can find one with a positive net benefit. Moving on to option 2, we can see that the sum of the benefits is $220,000 and the costs are $205,000. The net benefit is therefore $15,000. Moving on to option 3, we can see that the sum of the benefits is $230,000 and the costs are $220,000. The net benefit is therefore $10,000. Moving on to option 4, we can see that the sum of the benefits is $240,000 and the costs are $300,000. The net loss is therefore $60,000. If we select the option with the greatest overall benefit, then option 2 would be the obvious choice. Remember, just because we've identified the option with the greatest benefit, we should be careful about the value of the data collected. That plays a big role in the value of a project and the results of a cost-benefit analysis. Alright, you've made it through the final video in Unit 1 and you should now have a good understanding of cost-benefit analysis. You've seen how to conduct one and have heard some of the limitations of being able to collect valuable data.
That's all for cost-benefit analysis, and let's proceed to our next reporter.
Hello everyone, I am Ferlin Milmakiling of Phase 4 Group, and my discussion topic is Prepare System Selection Report. What is a system selection report? The deliverable product of the system selection process is the system selection report. Is a formal document consisting of revised feasibility study, cost-benefit analysis, and a list and explanation of intangible benefits for each alternative design.
Let's look at each one of these steps in a little bit more detail. The first step in the process is the feasibility study. The project team will want to answer some key questions at this point. For example, can the project be completed on time? And can it be completed within the existing budget that's been set aside for this particular project? Also with the existing staff, do you have the expertise in-house to do this kind of project, or are you going to have to hire out contractors? Another key decision that's made at this point is a buy versus build decision. If you have the expertise in-house and it's a custom type of software, do you go ahead and build that with internal staff, Or is there an existing software package that you could buy off the shelf that meets your needs? So that's really it for the feasibility study. Let's go ahead and move on to the next step. The next Hello true friends. On today's video you will get to know what is meant by cost-benefit analysis. So let's get to it. Whenever you're about to make a decision and you start weighting your choices against each other, and you start weighting the cost against the benefits, or the returns that you'd get from such a decision, that's what we call cost-benefit analysis, or CBA. We use cost-benefit analysis every day actually. You've just used it now. Think about it. You saw my video online and you thought to yourself for a second, is it really worth watching it or not? Is learning more about cost-benefit analysis worth the 3 minutes video? In this case, the cost was your time, which is 3 minutes to be spent watching it, and the benefit, or the return, was learning something new about the cost-benefit analysis. And evidently, since you are watching it now, your answer was yes, which means that you found that the benefit does outweigh the cost. Same goes for the business. When making any decisions, they go through the cost-benefit analysis to see if it's really worth making it or not. The cost can be money, time, or effort, and maybe even risk, a perceived risk. On the other hand, the benefit can be any good returns for the business. It might be more profits, or less cost at least. In this video, we've covered the idea of cost-benefit analysis, and if you've got any inquiries or questions, please leave me a comment and I'll be more than glad to answer them all for you. I will see you all in my next video, my true friends. Thanks for watching.
International Financial Reporting Standards, or IFRS, an intangible asset is defined as an identifiable non-monetary asset without physical substance. In US GAAP, an intangible asset is defined as an asset other than a financial asset that lacks physical substance. The first common factor is a lack of physical substance. An intangible asset does not physically exist, unlike a tangible asset, such as a factory or a machine, which would be in property, plant and equipment. Second common factor, an intangible asset is not a financial asset. Examples of monetary or financial assets are cash and cash equivalents, marketable securities and accounts receivable. When reviewing annual reports, you will find that companies have various ways of grouping intangible assets. Some use the term intangible assets as a category label, with items such as goodwill, computer software and patents as line items inside it. Others simply list goodwill and intangible assets as separate line items. What they really mean, here comes the language purist, goodwill on one hand and other intangible assets on the other. When reviewing intangible assets in an annual report, check carefully whether you are looking at the category as a whole or a subset. Many companies have a substantial amount of goodwill on the balance sheet if they have done acquisitions at some point in their history. Far fewer companies have a significant amount in other intangible assets. An example of a company
The basis of this report. The steering committee will select a single system that will go forward to the next phase of the system development life cycle, detailed design, or phase 5. The steering committee will decide on the priorities or order of the business or an organization and manages the general course of its operations. The auditor's responsibility is to ensure and verify internal control procedures by examining records, reports, operating practices, and documents. Indeed, the primary concern for auditors is that the economic feasibility of the proposed system is measured as accurately as possible. The auditor should ensure 5 things, namely: number 1, only escapable costs are used in calculations of cost-saving benefits. An avoidable expense, also called an escapable expense, is a cost that will not occur if a department is closed, operation is cancelled, or product is discontinued. In other words, it's an expense that can be avoided by eliminating specific operations. Number 2, reasonable interest rates are used in measuring present value of cash flows. Present value, also known as present discounted value, is the value on a given date of a payment or series of payments made at other times. If the payments are in the future, they are discounted to reflect the time value of money and other factors such as investment risk. If they are in the past, their values correspondingly enhanced to reflect those payments that have been earning interest in the intervening time. Present value calculations are widely used in business and economics to provide the means to prepare cash flows at different times on a different like-to-life basis. The interest rate or discount rate and the number of periods are the two other variables that affect present value. The higher the rate, the lower the present value. Number 3, one-time and recurring costs are completely and accurately reported. One-time expenses or revenue arises from non-operating activities, that is, those outside a company's usual activities. An example of a one-time expense would be costs associated with relocation, while an example of one-time revenue would be the periodic sale of an asset, such as a building, at a profit. Number 4, realistic useful lives are used in comparing competing projects. The last number, number 5, intangible benefits are assigned reasonable financial values. Intangible benefits are those that one cannot or chooses not to put a price on in an explicit fashion. For example, the value of wilderness or increased sense of community. Intangible operational benefits arise from increased data accuracy, higher levels of customer service, more rapid access to information, a higher level of certainty about orders or deliveries because of the computerized tracking and decreased delivery times. Errors, omissions, and misrepresentations in the accounting for such items can distort the analysis and may result in a materially flawed decision.